The 10-foot wide door leads to the main chamber of the Marotorium. A flight of stairs covered in purple carpet lead to a donut-shaped chamber that has a domed ceiling. This ceiling, as well as the walls, are completely covered in the bone sculptures that were seen before in the vestibule. In the center of the room there is a pit, and levitating above this pit is a strange beige kind of sphere, an orb made out of some sort of physical material that is magically being shaped and turned and twisted while levitating in the air. The chamber has sets of stairs leading to higher and higher pedestals, and in the midsection of it, on the northern and southern walls, there are alcoves that hold creatures in them. These creatures are almost entirely similar to the animated armors in the earlier room, except these are down on their knees, bowing down and chanting in this kind of throat singing, very like Tibetan monk style chanting. And they are emanating magic off of their bodies, and for players who are attuned to that sort of stuff, they can recognize that their chants are levitating the beige sphere in the middle of the pit. The pit itself leads to a kind of almost an endless void, where on the wall of it there is the garbage chute. Should the players enter this place through the garbage chute, they will have to make an intelligence save once they get close enough to the pit. The player that's crawling at the head of the group is going to have to make that save, and if they fail, they will be affected by the magic levitating this orb. They will suffer an effect where their own bone structure starts to ripple and form kind of bumps and spikes and all sorts of nasty things that cause terrible nerve pain, and they cause the player character to suffer the first level of exhaustion effect that can only be reverted with a greater restoration spell. Thankfully, in this chamber are people who know that spell. The last thing to mention about this chamber is the western wall and the alcove in it. All of the sculptures seem to be leading into it, almost like they are blossoming out of this corner. Here stands a 7-foot-tall figure whose humanoid body is also shaped very similarly to the animated armors, to where it looks like it's a set of plate armor that's made to look very much like a human skeleton with a rib cage and all sorts of rivets and nooks and crannies like that. Though from the neck up, his head reminds you more of a sort of a ancient Assyrian kind of king's sculptures that are made of them, where they're the equal size of mass that their own heads take is also given to their beards and to their crowns that look almost like towers rising from the tops of their heads. He also has slits for his eyes and mouth, and he is waving his arms in this very kind of elegant and wavy kind of way, like an artist or a conductor. He is shaping the sphere in the middle. He is a Merovingian envoy. If the players come in here and speak with him or anything of that sort, he will simply regard them as lesser beings unworthy of his attention, and he will simply continue on in his work as if the players aren't there. There's such a minor irritant to him. However, if any of the players is a noble, like before, it will have an effect. He will consider them as equals immediately without any questions asked. So when that happens, he will consider them worthy of conversation, worthy of telling them who he is, where he comes from, what he's doing, and all sorts of things like that, and also curing them of the ailment they might have received crawling through the garbage chute. Even if that effect was bestowed on someone who is not a noble, the Merovingian envoy is still going to consider them as simply poor choice in retainers, but retainers nonetheless for the nobleman. His name is Kashtiliash. He is here to show the Celadon Queen his talents, which is the talent of manipulating bone matter. He can create constructs, he can construct armor, and he can also make exoskeletons like the ones he is wearing, because inside his suit of armor, he is also an ooze, an intelligent one, and he is going to be using the stats of a Inquisitor of the Tome from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, minus the silver longsword. So he is very formidable and dangerous, but it's very hard to provoke him into using violence unless you purposefully sabotage his art. His main mission here is to show off his abilities, but as an artist, he would much rather spend his time creating sculptures. So that's why there are so many sculptures in this Flesh Foundry chamber instead of it being filled with constructs and the like made out of bone. The Merovingians themselves are a noble line of demons and oozes who are very, very acutely in-tuned into the hierarchy of class society, and they view everyone as either being members of a higher and lower class, and the lower class are simply scum, not worthy of your attention, and completely disposable and usable as scrap parts, like the bone of the humanoids he is using here. If the players wish to ask him further questions about his society and all that, you can add those details in, but we'll go into them at a later time, because elsewise this will take forever.